Daniel Kahn, who's at the club's training ground for us now. Dan, very good to see you. Tell us, where do we stand when it comes to Jadon Sancho and Rasmus Hojlund?
Yeah, afternoon, James. I mean, as you mentioned there, Manchester United have absolutely bolstered their attacking options this summer with 3 attackers coming in Brian Mbeumo, Matheus Cunha and Benjamin Sesko. But now the talk is about 3 potential forwards leaving the club. Let's start with Rasmus Hojlund, as 1-9 has come in and Sesko, 1-9 could be leaving in Hojlund. And what we understand, our colleagues in Italy reporting that he is now, Hojlund, open to a move to the Serie A giants AC Milan, and expecting talks to now progress quite quickly over a potential move for Hojlund. Now, I think between AC Milan and Manchester United would particularly be keen on a permanent option here for Hojlund. AC Milan more keen on a loan with an option to buy. So I think those will be the fine details that United look to negotiate around Hojlund. And then you look at someone like Jadon Sancho. Again, news breaking in the last 24 hours that AS Roma have put in a permanent bid for the winger Manchester United spent over £70 million on in the summer of 2021. And really, with Sancho looking in the final year of his contract, that actually could be a pretty decent fee for a player who hasn't played a whole lot of football in the last 2 years. So again, we'll see. Sancho in particular has interest from all around Europe, the likes of Besiktas and Borussia Dortmund. So it really will be interesting to see what Sancho also thinks is the best avenue for him as he makes his next step. But really, James, it has to be said overall for United, when they look at the business they're trying to do now, it is about those departures. You also talk about Alejandro Garnacho as another potential forward. We know Chelsea very interested in him, and I think now just waiting for Chelsea to make their move in terms of formalising that interest and really seeing if United get their evaluation of around £50 million for the young winger, or if Chelsea can negotiate that further down. Very interesting to see what United do in terms of these departures. They've done pretty well, you have to consider, 3 forwards in well before the season has begun, but how can they do in terms of getting value on these players they're looking to move on? We'll wait and see, and I'm sure all of those names will dominate Ruben Amorim's press conference in this new press conference room, by the way. New season, new room, and we'll bring you Amorim's news conference from just after 1:30 this afternoon.
It looks brilliant, Daniel. We'll catch you soon. Now, Brighton midfielder Carlos Baleba has been subject to interest from Manchester United in this window, but his boss Fabian Hürzeler is very confident that he'll stay.
Very, very, very confident.
Yeah?
Yes.
Any particular reason why?
Just my belief, enjoying being a Brighton player. He's very grateful to have the process he had in the last season, so I didn't see any big change, and he's an option to start for tomorrow. Yes.
So as far as Fabian Hürzeler is confirmed, that man Carlos Baleba is not going anywhere, and he could feature this weekend against Fulham. Mark, these links don't seem to be going away, but what would need to happen for Manchester United to sign Carlos Baleba? Because it feels like we're a long way off from this.
It would have to be an astronomical offer. We know that Brighton have an exceptional recruitment system. What they do, the data model they use, the people they have at the football club, they are one of the market leaders when it comes to recruiting players. And you have to remember, they spent £25 million on getting Carlos Baleba from Lille a couple of years ago. And he's only 21 years old. They signed a 19-year-old. And obviously their model is always to develop players, to coach them, to improve them. And then, as we've seen historically, particularly in recent years, they've got the ability to sell these players for huge profits because they're so good at what they do. But someone like Carlos Baleba, who's only been at the club for a couple of years, who's still very much a part of that first team setup, still developing as a player, he will maybe have his head turned by the interest from Manchester United. Who wouldn't? Brighton's plan for the player is very much he will be with us for at least the next season. And Paul Barber said for many, many years to come. Quite interesting there that Fabian Hürzeler said, when asked, you know, how confident are you that he'll still be at Brighton? It was very, very, very confident. There was 3 verys in there, which I think gives you an indication as to just how confident he is that he will remain at Brighton this season. No question that if he continues on the upward trajectory that he's currently on, he continues to play in the same way that he has, that these big clubs will start to look at him as someone that could be that pivot in midfield, someone that can be the shield in midfield for the back four and really develop as a player. But I would be absolutely gobsmacked, despite all the social media noise and various other things that are being said about him, if he were to end up at Manchester United this summer. There has been reports and noise saying he's not at the training ground. Our information is he's training with his teammates at Brighton today, and it's very much business as usual.
It looks like Jadon Sancho is closing in on a departure from Manchester United, who are finding it very, very, very difficult to offload players in this window.
Yeah, and that's the problem. When you have big players on big contracts with big wages, it means that there are very few exit routes from the club that they're at, particularly when a club like Manchester United says to 4, 5, 6, 7 players, actually, we don't think you're going to be a part of our first team this season, so therefore we'd like you to explore the opportunities for you to move on. That's all well and good, but there are only very few clubs in the world that could actually afford the type of wages that some of these players are on. Marcus Rashford, as we know, gone to Barcelona, still not registered yet because he's on big wages, and that becomes a problem for certain clubs. And that's also the case when you're signing players on loan. We know that Real Betis would love to take Antony, but again, wages and fees likely to be an issue there. So that's not progressing at the moment. Rasmus Hojlund's another player. We know that AC Milan are interested in him. The talks continue. He would be open to potentially moving. But there was a £70 million investment in him. Manchester United want to try and recoup back as much as they possibly can. And of course, the noise about Garnacho will continue. We know there's interest there from Chelsea. He wants to remain in the Premier League, but as of yet, no formal offer from Chelsea to Manchester United. And that's the problem with a lot of these players. So it becomes an issue when you're earning so much money. Great for the player at the time, but when it becomes about looking at that next stage of your career, it just doesn't really exist, so it becomes hard to facilitate. OK,
let's get from Manchester United to Tottenham because they...
He's into the last year of his contract. He's on massive wages as well, so that's another drain on the club system, particularly when they're conscious of PSR. So therefore, you'd imagine this is the type of offer that will get Manchester United to the table. They know they're going to have to take a hit on what they paid Borussia Dortmund for him, around £73 million. So, you know, it was a big deal back then. Safe to say this hasn't really worked out. Roma offering, like you say, £20 million, but getting him off the wage bill is probably worth another £15 to £20 million this year as well. So it could be a deal that happens. We know that Borussia Dortmund were also interested in taking him, but as of yet, there's been no formal offer to Manchester United. I get the feeling this one might happen. Players open to moving to Serie A. He's had some good experiences in the Bundesliga. Didn't work out at Chelsea last season. It feels like it's only a matter of time now before Jadon Sancho is no longer a Manchester United player.
And Sancho not the only United player that they're hoping to move on in this window, the other being Rasmus Hojlund. Mark, he said, and he had said over the course of the summer, that he wants to stay and fight for his place at Manchester United, but it feels like his stance may have just shifted now.
Yeah, this was news that came out whilst we were on air yesterday, actually, from our colleague Sky in Italy, who said that AC Milan had positive contact with his representatives. And whilst his stance had been, I want to stay at Manchester United, I want to earn my place in that team, and I want to prove to the Old Trafford fans that I am one of the best strikers I can possibly be, it hasn't worked out. But now the stance is softening. The minutes have not been as frequent in pre-season as he would have hoped for. And I'm presuming at some stage Ruben Amorim has said, look, Rasmus, thanks so much, but you're not going to get game time. You know, Benjamin Sesko is our number one striker. You might be coming off the bench, if at all. So actually, my best advice is go and play, go and develop. You had a really successful spell in Serie A at Atalanta before you joined us. Go back there, continue to prove yourself, continue to score goals, continue to develop. So it feels like now that stance for the player has probably changed, knowing that his days at Manchester United are over. There's all sorts of discussions happening with regards to permanent loans with options and obligations. But again, he's another one that feels like he's edging towards the exit at the Theatre of Dreams.
And are you expecting Benjamin Sesko to be a significant upgrade on Rasmus Hojlund?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's shown consistently over the last 2 seasons that he can lead the line and score goals in the Bundesliga. And I guess this is the point. Look, Man United really need this signing to work. There is no other option than it works for them, because they've spent a lot on him. He's taken a bit of leap of faith in joining them as well. And he's kind of trusted them with his future, because he said, I trust you to make me into one of the best strikers or help me become one of the best strikers in the world. United have not been brilliant at developing players, at helping them find that extra level in recent years. So there's, I think, a leap of faith for both player and club. I mean, what we've seen with Šeško, and of course, because he came through Salzburg, he was compared a lot to Erling Haaland. They're similar physically. They're big guys who've got a turn of pace that you wouldn't expect to look at them. But they're very different sort of players. Like, Šeško never really hinted at being the sort of goal scorer, the sort of fox in the box, the extraordinaire that Haaland was. But Haaland never really had his all-round game, which has improved actually while he's been in Germany. Now, I've been quite surprised by the amount of goals that he has scored in Germany, even though he had a couple of little droughts which brought his overall total down last season. He's still got nigh on 20 goals in all competitions for both of those seasons. I think it is a question of how much United can develop him. I think, unfortunately, Rasmus Hojlund has been... I think he was bought too soon, a little bit like Joshua Zirkzee. And really, I guess Šeško is that little bit further down the line. But by the same token, you're looking at a little bit like when Alexander Isak.
With United out of Europe this season, they will only play one game per week, and that will mean more time on the training pitch for Amram and his players. This is important not only for integrating new players into the setup but also so Amram can do more of his detailed tactical walkthroughs. Players are physically moved into specific positions for phases with and without the ball. It is vital his messaging now translates into games. The thing I like the most is now there's going to be no excuses, Diogo Dalot, one of the newly appointed six-man leadership group, said last week. Ultimately, the thing that will define us is what we do on the pitch. I think what is going to bring joy to the fans, joy to ourselves, is winning games.